equipment to get in right now. And that equipment is those taller, the curb edges. And so these are about 12 to 18 inches high, as well as some other balusters that are nailed. And so that'll take up the parking along 6th Street. We originally ordered for the entire length of 6th Street to Brazos, to Red River. They are not in. So we have some that's coming, and we're going to block up. We're going to start with the 300 and 400 block of 6th Street, because that is where our most concentrated, when we're talking about calls for service and we're talking about problems that we're having, that's the area that it's kind of condensed to. So when those do get here, we're going to be taking up the lanes of parking there, and then the south side will be a bike lane as well, so traffic will be flowing westbound in that same westbound traffic. But we will be operating lights. We'll have extra traffic enforcement as far as DUI enforcement out to help with that. But the goal is this, to always be flexible. So when it comes to a point when we're seeing crowds that are too big, we're going to close the street down. And so just to get that flexibility, that's what we're going to do. And at the end of the day, when we're looking at all this, if it can't be done and it can't be done safely, we're not going to do it. If we have to wait for all those structural changes to come, a great idea was putting the balusters on the sidewalks. So if we did open the streets, a car couldn't come up like what happened in Las Vegas or what happened in New Orleans. If we're coming up on the sidewalk, that couldn't happen. So I think those are, again, those structural changes that we need to take a look at. But those are years away, and that takes time. It takes a lot of money. But we have got to look at that. We see what happens when you have large crowds in these areas. And when, again, a terrorist attack. But it happened. It was a planned attack in New Orleans that can happen anywhere.
How does that, maybe what happened in New Orleans, maybe shift the thinking in terms of when we have larger events like South by and ACL? How does that maybe shift the way that you all approach safety and try to keep people safe?
Listen, I have seen a lot of police departments across this country and what they do in event planning. There are very few, if any, that compare with what Austin does here. Our event planning unit is top notch, and what they do for event season is nothing short of miraculous. And so taking into account, again, that safety of pedestrians, the safety of vehicular traffic, all of those, it's taken into effect. Do more? Absolutely. And we're looking at equipment and resources that we can use. And that's about best practices. We're looking at what's being done across the country, what new technology is available to us, and we are doing that.
What's sort of the timeline? We talked about backstage. What is sort of the timeline for phases of this approach?
Yeah, so again, the phases have started for Thursdays and Sundays, and it's given us an opportunity because it's not as busy on those days, and we're now currently with the students after the holidays. That was a good opportunity to do that, and it gives us some opportunity to look at what those gaps are that we need to address. But the first phase is when we get that equipment in. It was supposed to come in, I believe, January 9th, and we've already been told that that's been pushed back. It's being delayed. So as soon as we get that equipment in, we're going to get those into the ground. This is a partnership with many city entities. This is not just the police. This is traffic engineering. It's public services. It's all of those things working together. So as soon as that gets in, traffic engineering will put those in, and we'll start seeing that second phase open. But right now, we are doing it. We're doing it effectively. We've had no issues. But again, we're going to be thoughtful about it. We're going to take our time. We're not in a rush to do this. We want to do it correctly.
Just a clarification question. So those devices, they're going to block off where parking is available right now, and they're sort of preventative, just in case
the car to come up. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they are that. And then in addition to that, we'll have fencing behind that. So the sidewalk will be extended. So we'll have the pedestrians will be able to go out into. So if you would imagine where the parking cuts in, that fencing will be there, and that the curvatures will be there as well. So it pushes and bumps out. And so when we look at those structural changes, does that make sense for the city to go ahead and put that concrete out and widen that sidewalk that way? So that's what we're trying to see. Yes. Yes. Any other questions?
And then when do you expect, like in the next few weeks?
Again, we're looking. They were supposed to come in January 9th. They've been pushed back. They've been delayed a few times, but they are coming. And it's we'll keep you posted. This is something we need to do marketing around. We need to let people know, working with UT to let the students know that come down to 6th Street that this is happening, working with other avenues as far as Facebook and the way that we tell people what's occurring. We have to do that. And I count on all of you to do that as well, because it's important that people understand what the changes are when they're coming down.
Things like the balusters may take a little bit more time to implement. Is there a reason why? Is it just kind of just looking at maybe how your initial plans go into effect and how that will?
I think with the balusters, you have to look at, I think New Orleans had the ones that came out of the ground, and again, those were, they were down, they weren't working at that time, so do we get the the structured ones that are in place, permanent structures. But again, we're talking money. We're talking about this is a historic district. How would that all work? But it's really, this is what gives me hope and makes me happy about all of this is that this is a whole city addressing this issue. This is not just APD. The city recognizes this needs to be done. It needs to be done safely. And so when we get those, when we start looking at what's being done, again, best practices, I think bringing a good product to the city and what we can do here, we're going to see a huge benefit.